Your Majesties, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, peace is not mere absence of war, it is a virtue, wrote Spinoza. Pax enim non belli privatio, sed virtus est. And he added, it is a state of mind, a disposition for benevolence, confidence, justice. Indeed, there can only be true peace if people are confident, at peace with their political system, reassured that their basic rights are respected. The European Union is not only about peace among nations. It incarnates as a political project that particular state of mind that Spinoza was referring to. It embodies, as a community of values, this vision of freedom and justice. I remember vividly, in 1974, being in the mass of people, descending the streets in my native Lisbon, in Portugal, celebrating the democratic revolution and freedom. This same feeling of joy was experienced by the same generation in Spain and Greece. It was felt later in Central and Eastern Europe and in the Baltic states when they regained their independence. Several generations of Europeans have shown again and again that their choice for Europe was also a choice for freedom. I will never forget Rostropovich playing Bach at the Fallen Wall in Berlin. And this image reminds the world that it was the quest for freedom and democracy that tore down the old divisions and made possible the reunification of the continent. Joining the European Union was essential for the consolidation of democracy in our countries, because it places the person and human dignity at its heart, because it gives a voice to diversity while creating unity. And so after unification, Europe was able to breathe with both its lungs, as said by Karol Wojtyla. The European Union has become our common house, the homeland of our homelands, as described by Václav Havel. Our union is more than an association of states. It is a new legal order which is not based on the balance of power between nations, but on the free consent of states to share sovereignty. From pooling coal and steel to abolishing internal borders, from 6 countries to soon 28, with Croatia joining the family, this has been a remarkable European journey which is leading us to an ever closer union. And today, one of the most visible symbols of our unity is in everyone's hands. It is the euro, the currency of our European Union. We will stand by it. The uniqueness of the European project is to have combined the legitimacy of democratic states with the legitimacy of supranational institutions, the European Commission, the European Court of Justice, supranational institutions that protect the general European interest, defend the European common good, and embody the community of destiny. And alongside the European Council, where the governments are represented, we have, over the years, developed a unique transnational democracy symbolized by the directly elected European Parliament. Our quest for European unity is not a perfect work of art. It is work in progress that demands constant and diligent tending. It is not an end in itself, but a means to higher ends. In many ways, it attests to the quest for a cosmopolitan order, in which one person's gain does not need to be another person's pain, in which abiding by common norms serves universal values. That is why, despite its imperfections, the European Union can be, and indeed is, a powerful inspiration for many around the world. Because the challenges faced from one region to the other may differ in scale, but they do not differ in nature. We all share the same planet. Poverty, organized crime, terrorism, climate change, these are problems that do not respect national borders. We share the same aspirations and universal values. These are progressively taking root in a growing number of countries all over the world. This federalist and cosmopolitan vision is one of the most important contributions that the European Union can bring to a global order in the making. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the concrete engagement of the European Union in the world is deeply marked by our continent's tragic experience of extreme nationalism, wars, and absolute evil of the Shoah. It is inspired by our desire to avoid the same mistakes being made again. That is the foundation of our multilateral approach for a globalization based on the twin principles of global solidarity and global responsibility. That is what inspires our engagement with our neighboring countries and international partners from the Middle East to Asia, from Africa to the Americas. It defines our stance against the death penalty and our support for international justice, embodied by the International Court of Justice and the International Criminal Court. It drives our leadership in the fight against climate change and for food and energy security. It underpins our policies on disarmament and against nuclear proliferation. And as a continent that went from devastation to become one of the world's strongest economies, with the most progressive social systems, being the world's largest aid donor, we have a special responsibility to millions of people in need. In the 21st century, it is simply unacceptable to see parents powerless as their baby is dying of lack of basic medical care, mothers compelled to walk all day in the hope of getting food or clean water, and boys and girls deprived of their childhood because they are forced to become adults ahead of time. As a community of nations that has overcome war and fought totalitarianism, we will always stand by those who are in pursuit of peace and human dignity. And let me say it from here today, the current situation in Syria is a stain on the world's conscience, and the international community has a moral duty to address it. And as today marks the International Human Rights Day, more than any other day, our thoughts go to the human rights defenders all over the world who put their lives at risk to defend the values we cherish. And no prison wall can silence their voice. We hear them in this room today. We also remember that last year on this very podium, 3 women were honored for their non-violent struggle for the safety of women and for women's rights. As a union built on the founding value of equality between women and men, enshrined in the Treaty of Rome in 1957, we are committed to protecting women's rights all over the world and supporting women's empowerment. And we cherish the fundamental rights of those who are the most vulnerable and hold the future in their hands, the children of this world. And my message today is, you can count on our creative efforts to fight for lasting peace, freedom and justice in Europe and in the world. Over the past 60 years, the European project has shown that it is possible for peoples and nations to come together across borders, that it is possible to overcome the differences between them and us. And here today, our hope, our commitment is that with all women and men of goodwill, the European Union will help the world come together for justice, for freedom, for peace. Tusen tack. Thank you.